Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video, and today we are talking damage, and more importantly, how to do the most damage possible in a team. The raid is drawing ever closer. You're more than likely rushing around trying to increase your power level as much as possible, since the higher your power, the more damage you can both deal and take, but it's also important to understand the bigger picture, and how you can work as effectively as possible as a team to dish out those big numbers. So in this video, I want to go over some high level ability combos that you can and should take advantage of to drastically increase the damage that you're dealing. Of course, if you do enjoy this and you do find it helpful, then a like would be super appreciated, and be sure to comment down below if you have any questions. Now to begin with, before we dive into the test itself and the numbers, let's talk a little bit about the three core abilities that we'll be working with. First up, we have the Warlock Rift. This is your class ability, accessible in all three subclasses, and the bottom option, Empowering Rift, increases your weapon damage for those inside it. This is pretty obvious, and it's an easy skill to use. Just drop it where you or your team stand, and instantly you're increasing your damage output. In addition to that, we have the Titan's Hammer Strike ability, essentially Melting Point from Destiny 1. While sprinting, use the melee ability to unleash a blazing hammer strike that weakens the enemy. Now it's worth calling out that this doesn't last incredibly long, so your window is pretty slim, but all whilst the hammer strike effect is on the enemy, all whilst they are weakened, you are doing more damage. And of course, last but by no means least, we have the Nightstalker Tether. If you play Destiny 1, you will already be familiar with the fact that enemies caught in the tether take more damage, so this should be a core part of your boss strategy. While admittedly the tether is best used in groups to generate orbs, when it's down to single target boss DPS, a tether on the target is also incredibly important. So, those three abilities, one Hunter, one Titan and one Warlock, are the core of your damage formula. The question then remains, what happens when you combine them, and more importantly, which combinations are the most potent and which ones are a waste of time? In order to work this out, we tested the combinations in a number of different scenarios: the Nightfall, strikes, missions, and even the open world. It is worth noting that your damage numbers will differ depending on the level of your enemy, so testing this in the open world will yield lower base damage numbers than, say, the Nightfall, but the percentage difference or the percentage increase remains constant. There are a few minor discrepancies when you factor in power and level and some of the underlying damage modifiers, but since I want to make this video as clear and concise as possible, what we've done is run the tests in all the different possible activities, taken the average result, and rounded the percentage increase value to give you a clean cut number. However, for illustration purposes, just to give you a visual cue to see the difference, we picked on this Fallen Captain in the open world. He's strong enough to withstand a hammer strike, and he respawns every minute or so he's a pretty easy and safe target to use. So let's run the numbers. Using this hacker auto rifle, and with the Captain's shield down, the standard body shot damage in this case is 36, and a crit shot to the head comes in at 88. These numbers will be our baseline, the numbers that will compare everything else against to work out how much more damage we're doing with the different configurations. But again, as a reminder, these tests will also run in the different activities to give you guys an overall average baseline that applies across the board. Standing in a Warlock Empowering Rift changes that output to 46 base damage and 115 crits, so that is a 30% damage increase. So simply by dropping down your Warlock Rift, your Empowering Rift, and having your team pile in, you are all dealing 30% more damage. The Nightstalker Tether then results in 48 base damage and 119 crit, which is a 35% damage increase, and that is the same stat we know from Destiny 1. So again, throwing a tether on a boss or a group of enemies means you are dealing 35% more damage. However, the interesting one is the Titan's Hammer Strike. Standalone, this boosts damage numbers to 53 and crit to 132, so all up, that is a 50% damage increase. That being said, it's important to remember that the window for this is tiny. Hammer Strike remains active for around 3 to 4 seconds, meanwhile a tether is much longer. Furthermore, you need to actually melee the boss and get a run up in order to proc it, so it won't be something you can use at all times. Sometimes it will just simply be too dangerous. However, with all of that in mind, as standalone abilities go, Hammer Strike is number 1, followed by Nightstalker Tether, followed by Warlock Rift. 50% damage increase, 35% damage increase, and a 30% damage increase. But what if we combine them? Well, a Warlock Rift plus a Tether results in 62 base damage and 155 crit, which ultimately ends up as a 75% damage increase. Meanwhile, a Warlock Rift and a Hammer Strike goes even further, pushing the base damage up to 69, and a crit up to 172, which is a whopping 95% damage increase all up. But again, bear in mind, you have a tiny window. You'll only be able to take advantage of that for, say, 3 seconds, but within those 3 seconds, if you had a team in a Rift, that could easily be a couple of snipes or rockets per person. Okay, maybe not 2 rockets since they're really slow to reload, but you get the idea. That's enough time for you to dish out some serious damage in a short window before you then move on to the Tether. Now, the final combination, this one is interesting, and it's something that we saw happen in Destiny 2, but Hammer Strike is quite simply cancelled out by the Tether. If you apply Hammer Strike first and Tether second, you simply get the same numbers as the standalone Tether. And if you apply the Tether first and then the Hammer Strike, the results are the same. So essentially there is absolutely no value in applying Hammer Strike if you have a Tether active, simply because you're putting yourself in harm's way when you could simply be standing back in the Rift dealing more damage. And with all of that said and done, that also means there's no need for any crazy triple combos like Rift plus Tether plus Hammer Strike, because again, the Tether will take priority. However, on the flip side, it does mean that you can stagger your damage modifiers. If you had a Rift and then use, say, the first 3 seconds of Hammer Strike to take advantage of that insane damage increase, and then applied Tether some 3 seconds later, then you'd be cooking on gas. So in summary, your highest damage ability combo is Warlock Empowering Rif plus Hammer Strike, but it's only good for, say, 3 seconds. Closely followed by Warlock Rift and Tether, followed by standalone Hammer Strike, followed by Tether, followed by Empowering Rift. Those, my friends, are some of the ways in which you can drastically increase your damage output in the raid, the Nightfall, pretty much anywhere that you are a team. Of course, there are weapons you can factor in too, things like the Skyburner's Oath, which does bonus damage to Cabal, but that is a video for another time. So for now, that's it. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. Again, if you have any questions, by all means drop them down below. But thank you very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.